In the bustling heart of Lagos, Nigeria, a powerful story emerges. One that shines a light on the urgent struggle for housing justice and urban resilience. Today, we're honored to be joined by the creative voices behind a new film that is igniting conversations and inspiring action. The legend of the Vagabond Queen of Lagos takes us into the vibrant world of Lagos's waterfront settlements. But this is no ordinary story. It's a work of resistance, rooted in the real-life tragedy of the Otodo Gbame community. Between November 2016 and April 2017, over 30,000 residents of this informal fishing settlement were forcibly evicted from their homes, becoming refugees in their own city. Our film's heroine is a young mother who stumbles upon a hoard of corrupt blood money, earmarked for a luxury development set to replace her community. Her journey takes her from isolated individualism to becoming a unifying force as she fights to save everything her people stand to lose. Joining us today are the lead actor, Temi Ami-Williams, who brings his character to life, as well as director and producer Bisola Akinmuyiwa and fellow director Temi Ogungbamila. They have poured their hearts into crafting a cinematic experience that demands our attention and calls us to action. This film is part of a larger campaign by Slum Dwellers International and its affiliates, who for over 4 decades have worked alongside organized urban poor communities to challenge forced evictions and build inclusive cities. Now, through the power of storytelling, they're amplifying voices that too often go unheard. Let's dive into the making of the legend of the Vagabond Queen of Lagos and explore how this project is intertwined with decades of grassroots activism, offering a glimpse into the profound wealth gap and exclusionary focus of development that threatens the heart and soul of Lagos. Look in the show notes for more information on how you can support this unique and powerful film, including booking screenings in your area. Now, let's listen in as Frederick and Leilani learn about the making of the legend of the Vagabond Queen of Lagos.
I'm Frederick Gerten, and I'm the filmmaker.
And I'm Leilani Farha, and I'm the advocate.
And this is Pushback Talks. And again, Leilani, we are connecting the dots or the whatever it's called, the video. I don't know. What do you call this universe we're living in? That you're in Ottawa, not in a basement, but you're at your home. And I'm in Malmö, Sweden. And we keep talking and we keep producing episodes after episodes of Pushback Talks.
We do.
For me, it means a lot. I mean, we don't make any money out of making the podcast, but for me, it keeps me sharp in some way. I need to follow what's happening around the world, and I think that's good. It gives me energy to do the podcasts.
Same here, and I love talking to all these different guests. It keeps me feeling connected to different parts of the world, even if I'm just here for now in Ottawa.
But in September, you went to the Toronto International Film Festival, and you attended the world premiere of a film called The Legend of the Vagabond Queen of Lagos, a film from Nigeria, produced and directed by people in the affected communities. Extremely cool. Tell me about your experience.
I don't go to Toronto easily or often. Not my favorite place to go. But when I got a call from my colleague and friend, Megan Chapman, saying that this film had finally been made and it was premiering in Toronto at the Toronto International Film Festival, I knew I had to be there. And it was an amazing experience. It was standing room only, first of all. And the film is just an incredible piece. It's an incredible piece of art, but it's also an incredible reflection of fact. So it's fiction, but it's absolutely deeply rooted in what is transpiring as we speak in Nigeria today. And the acting is beautiful, but the activism is beautiful too.
And we then have the magic to connect us and you, the listeners, with 3 amazing women who are actually right now in Lagos, Nigeria. So welcome to Pushback Talks. Temi Ami-Williams, you're the lead actress and you entered the slums and you're playing the role of a single mom in the midst of this very brutal reality. How was that experience for you?
Okay. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. It was very interesting. I'm trying to choose my words correctly. It was interesting. It was eye-opening. It was very enlightening for me because, like I said at the premiere, I was introduced to a part of my world that I had never come in contact with prior to joining this project with the amazing guys who made it. I studied 10 minutes away from one of these communities. Makoko is a very popular one, but I'd never been. I'd never been there. I didn't really know the realities of what they were going through, how they were living, or what they were facing with regards to forced evictions. And so, being a part of the film sort of then educated me, first of all, because to be able to play that kind of role, there was a lot of work and a lot of research that needed to go into it. They were teaching me about, some histories and the communities that had been evicted in the past. The one in particular that we were making the film about, Otodo Gbame, I'd never heard about it prior to the film. And, so I was learning about my state, learning about the country, and learning about the realities that people, are subjected to, learning about how families are being treated, less than human beings. And that for me was it was really eye-opening, but it also did more to emphasize how much more I wanted to be part of a project that was socially impactful. Yeah.
Because Nigeria is a very rich country. It produces oil. And now we hear about the fashion industry and the music industry and the film industry.
Yes,
I mean, it's
they're
a
thriving.
creative and strong and up-and-coming country, which is, of course, it's beautiful. But then there is also a very sad part of the story. And I guess that's what you got to experience.
Yes, absolutely. I did. I experienced the sad part that nobody wants to talk about, or that if you hear about it or read about it in the news or in mainstream media, it's sugar-coated or it's told from a warped angle. So you can't really tell the truth in there. Yeah, this film was like it tore the veil off of the whole thing and like just brought it in its pure naked form. Like, Temi, this is what it is. This is what's going on.
Yeah.
It was quite an experience.
The film is following, you can see forced evictions, and I've seen also a lot of documentary shots from forced evictions in Nigeria, and extremely brutal because, I mean, sometimes it's half an hour warning, and then people have to run away with all their belongings.
Yeah.
And then the caterpillars are coming and just taking everything down. People's home, maybe for generations. It's really hard to imagine that it exists at all. But we have two of the producers and the directors of the film here also with us, Bisola Akinmuyiwa and Temi Ogungbamila. Welcome to the show. Tell us about how you got this film up and going from the community. I mean, because you live in this community, Bisola and Temi.
Thank you so much for having us. And one thing that I used to say is, our story must be told. And at first, I think my first experience in witnessing forced eviction was at my early 20s. That is, I was just 20 years old. And I was just going to one of our communities called Otodo Gbame. And that was my first time of having the encounters of eviction. Then I was actually a community paralegal. I was going there as a community paralegal. And just to render free legal services to assist in one way or the other on a legal spot. But immediately, it seemed that I'm not actually doing enough. It seemed that the legal support I was given at that moment, that is not actually enough. So I began to ask myself, what can I do better? And we begin to start the ideas of how to publicize our stories, to gain attention, to make sure that we stop the hands of eviction. And we have our local media known as Media for Change under Justice and Empowerment Initiative, which we will be using to tailor our stories. And immediately, we begin to put things together because the case was actually took to a court whereby the court ruled in our favor. They actually placed a judgment that there should be a resettlement. But till date, nothing like so. We're like, what can we do better? And we begin to start cooking up a stories, which leads to Legend of Vagabond Queens today. A world of eviction is not what just happens to the Gbame community. but it has happened to 1,000 of informal settlements, even right from the days that I was born until now. It's still happening. This year, I could count about 5 communities that is also down as it is. And on our way coming back from Toronto, I could remember we were still at the Paris when I was receiving a message like one community is also like going down under eviction. So it was actually a painful stuff to me because coming back home and seeing one of our houses going down under eviction, which we're trying to like make an advocacy to actually stop this. So I couldn't hold on myself. The following day, I have to like rush down to the community just to understand what was happening better. Then we met with the community elders and they shared with us what has happened. But our part of the community was already down. Like they have brought up our part of the community already. And they gave the other house owners like 4 days to actually quit, to actually evacuate from the land. Otherwise, they will be coming in the next 4 days. So after the meetings, we actually have to like encourage them and try to like tell them more about how other communities have put on their resiliency to make sure that they secure their community. Of course, they listened, and that has helped us to save the community for eviction on that same week. I think it was randomly on the 19th of September 2024, if I'm not mistakenly. So they actually came instead of evicting, so they came in form of addressing, and that's okay. We actually came here to address you guys so that you won't go on social media on here to start like saying the government is not giving you a listening here. So they gave us a 3 months to standardize out the roof in uniform and also to make sure that all the roof is being painted accordingly. Like failures to do that they are coming. So it actually brought up another phase of fears, which that is one of the puzzles that we are here to solve with the community and we are tackling on. So eviction has been like one of the antagonist spots whereby we that were living in formal settlements, we can actually have our eyes closed on it because once the community go down, the next question is which community that will be the next, what next?
Yeah.
So we couldn't actually have our finger crossed or relax on it.
Leilani, I mean, I think it's amazing that I think we've seen that in many places around the world that community members are trying to tell their own stories through films and documentaries and clips on YouTube. But here's a community that directs and produces a film. I mean, it's Slum Dwellers who are producing a film that ends up in one of the top film festivals in the world. It's kind of special, isn't it?
I find the whole thing completely amazing. And I mean, I've been an advocate for, 25 years or something. And everything about this, the way it evolved from the grassroots, the intention of the film, the story it tells, and where it's going to go from here is really, it should actually be included in studies of good advocacy and creativity in advocacy. I really am so completely inspired by what you all have done. Honestly, I think it will change the way other people do advocacy as well. I think it will help your own struggles. I really do. I have noticed in my own trajectory that the more public we are and the more storytelling we do that's effective, and of course Frederick and I worked on, Frederick pushed the film and I was in it. I didn't have much to do with it, but I was in it. And the more we do this, it is a mechanism of accountability. And that's what human rights is about. It's about holding governments accountable. And I mean, various governments in Nigeria for years have been making all these grandiose commitments, right? We're going to be better, we're going to build, and people are going to have homes. And they just keep doing what they're doing, which is eradicating beautiful communities. And people don't know what informal settlements are really like. I mean, these are beautiful communities. They are intact communities. They are communities where, you all can talk about it more than me, but, communities where people work together and hang together and have each other's back. Not to glorify. I'm not trying to glorify. There are struggles in these communities, but a lot of that comes from governments failing to recognize them as communities and failing to help them develop as really vibrant communities. So that's my piece. I think what you've done is super amazing.
Mm. And the film ends with a very long list of actual forced evictions in Nigeria, and it's many over many, many years. So it's kind of whenever some rich people need some more land, they will just kick out thousands of people, and they will not give them anything back. They will just kick them out. It's extremely brutal. Temi, I know you're busy or in the middle of a film shoot, so I know you are living on the other side of the Nigerian society. So how are you using your experience now, your new insights? How do you communicate this to your friends and families?
I mean, when you say I'm living on the other side, I'm just living on the mainland. There's the mainland, there's the island, and then there's these islands, these smaller informal settlement islands. And I live on the mainland, which is not even like the highbrow area. But since I became a part of the film and we made the film, I've become hyper aware of informal settlements. I'm like, my eyes are open every time I'm going past one. I'm like, are they okay? Is everything okay there? You know, since we came back from TIFF, just like Bisola said, they were already in the process of evicting an entire community. They had already done half of one other community. And so it was just crazy. I'd be out on the road and just be looking, are they okay? Is everything okay? You know, everyone's mind is thinking, how can we help? Right? And so the most that I can do right now, outside of my NGO, because I run an NGO as well with a few friends for child health care and empowerment through skill acquisition. And this one time we paid a visit to one of these communities on an island. But we were just doing that to find out, you know, whose child isn't in school, how can we put people's children in school, you know. But now that this is what's going on, it's a remapping of our priorities. Now we're thinking, how do we get like a block of flats and just turn it into a shelter for people who don't have homes? You know, we're thinking around areas like that right now. Because there was something that Mohammed Zana said at one of the screenings. He mentioned that you can only have dreams and ambitions if you have a roof over your head, right? And if I care to put people's children in school, and if I care to do skill acquisitions for them, none of that is possible if they don't have a roof over their heads, right? So my priorities are changing concerning the NGO. And also, I mean, I have my social media, I have my voice. That's the one way I can talk about it, keep the conversation going, and, you know, encourage my friends to talk about it. I have a strong, you know, supportive community that if I say, hey guys, I need you to spread the word on this thing, they just like 2 seconds, they're all sharing it, right? So I am leveraging on my contacts right now. Yeah.
That's really, really important. So, and you think you can bring more people with you in this, of course, because you have a strong voice in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
So I have to ask Temi Ogungbamila also about how do you pull off a big production like this? I mean, how do you fund it? How do you make everything happen? Because it's also a beautiful film. Sometimes you can feel or think this is like an amateur work, but this is like a really high-end film. How did you make it happen?
Thank you so much for having me. I'll just start by how I came to be part of the team. I mean, I got to join the team in 2017 when I finished my secondary school in 2016. And I used to tell people that I joined basically because of my love for camera. I just want to take shots, you know, that selfie posts on Instagram and social media and all of that. But when I joined the training, I got to realize that media, you know, photography, videography, all this is more than that. That this is a tool for change. So knowing that these tools can be used as a tool of change. Around that 2017, some things happened in Nigeria around that time where politicians, you see a politician burying money in a graveyard, you know, in a coffin and different places that you can't even imagine. And Mohammed Zana and James Taylor at the time, they were just discussing and they came up with the idea of making a movie around that and how this affects informal settlement. And that's how we started the movie. And I actually thought at that time, I really do not think it will be this long. because I thought it was just like script writing. We just do this for 2 or 3 days and we're done. But as we can see now, I mean, it took a while. And I think we started writing the script with the funding from Sundance Institute, where they funded the writing trip. We went for a trip to one of our communities on the island so that we can be in that solitary place where there's no disturbance and we can be able to brainstorm and come up with great ideas. And really, it paid off. And this is what we've come to do. I mean, right now we have Legend of Vagabond Queen of Lagos. People have seen it in Toronto. People have seen it in America. We're seeing it in Nigeria very soon. So it just shows the power of, unity and, people coming together for a good cause, because this is for a good cause. We want to make sure forced eviction is something we don't experience again in Nigeria. As somebody that has experienced it before, I know it is not a pretty good thing, It's not something you wish for your enemy self. So this is something we want to end. And here we are.
It's cool. I mean, I think overall, Elani, it's a good film is when the filmmakers have a story to tell, that they have something at their heart. And this is a very clear example of that.
Absolutely. And I mean, Nigeria is known in international circles, for those of us who work in the area of housing, it's known as the eviction capital of the world. Yeah. Brutal evictions. And yeah, I mean, for sure. And when I first got involved in the human right to housing and working at an international organization on these issues, it was Nigeria that was like front and center of our work because, and this dates back into the 90s. Yeah. So, just these really brutal evictions and with absolute impunity, as if the communities and the people in them, really could just be erased. And so I love this act of challenging the eviction capital of the world, well, the evictors, and just saying, we're coming at you in a very different way, and this is going to be very difficult for you to get over. Yeah, the spotlight will be on them as this film rolls out more and more, and I certainly hope it continues to roll out. Did you say that it hasn't rolled out in Nigeria yet?
No, it's going to be screened in Nigeria next week, Wednesday.
Exciting. We wish you all the best, and I hope it will get a huge audience in Nigeria, as it deserves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, sorry, just to say, to think that you in Nigeria actually have some of the best legal cases that have been won, saying that certain evictions are a violation of human rights and the Constitution. And still the government proceeds with the evictions. I'm excited that you're going to actually start rolling this out in Nigeria, because that's where it's going to have a big effect. I think there's no doubt about that. And I think if it's happening next week, it's coinciding with the big World Urban Forum, which is a big conference happening in Egypt. And hopefully we can make some connections there as well.
Yeah, girls, what are your dreams for the film now? What is the next step?
One is to actually achieve the dreams and the aims, like the advocacy goal to put an end to an eviction. That is number one. Then number two, hopefully it will actually give a rooms or a forum to resettle these people back, because we are still on the lingering feet of resettlement, and also to make sure that there's a culture on how the government actually go about their land accusations in some of the informal settlements is actually there. We actually have this law. The only thing is they are not actually making use of it. So we hope to actually have this to be more effective on advocacy side, and hopefully to actually have a room for resettlements for the evictees in our communities. And with this, hopefully we'll be able to tell our story in a bigger forum like this in the nearest future.
So you're going to show it also in the communities where you shot it?
Yeah, one of our plans is after we finish our screening with Africa Film International Festival next week, Wednesday. We're also taking it back to the communities because it helps to create unity. It gives other communities a resilience fit. It makes them to build more on their resiliency. Because when we actually went to the one of the community, Aito community, and we enlightened them, and we try to like make them to understand what people have done in the past and make them to secure their community back, they put it into practice. It works. At first, they were like, oh, I hope they won't shoot at us. I hope they won't do this. They were like, even if they'll be shooting tear gas on you guys, you just have to put on the whole resilience and make sure that you protect, you fight for what belongs to you, not with weapons, but with your resilience heart. And it works for them. That is why we were able to like still have our feet, and days are still counting till December for the reuniform roof at the Aito communities. The other community, we have other community that is actually down already, but we still have some that still have their faith on the possible changes.
I can see that this film is a part of an ongoing multi-pronged campaign by Slum Dwellers International. Can you tell us more about this international campaign? Who is best to talk about? Because this is like really important, because it's not only Lagos or Nigeria that has people living under tough circumstances. What is happening around that?
Okay, so we have Nigerian Slum and Informal Settlement Federation in Nigeria, which is a movement of urban profile, dignity and development. JEI is our supporting NGO, and Slum Dwellers International is an international arm of Nigerian Slum and Informal Settlement Federation. So Slum Dwellers International encapsulates like slum communities from different countries in Africa. Like we have slum communities in Ghana, we have from Benin, we have from South Africa, we have so many countries in Africa. So it brings us together. Most of us face the same struggle. For example, in Kenya, Kibera, before they made this institute upgrading building that they did, that we're trying to also adopt, they also face forced eviction. I went to South Africa in, I think, 2018, and I saw that they're also facing forced eviction. So forced eviction is not, as you said, peculiar to Nigeria alone. It's also affecting so many other countries, even beyond Africa, right? So the campaign is actually to take this movie to other countries, not just in Nigeria. We're taking it to several slum communities in Nigeria, but we're also taking it to other Slum Dwellers International countries that share the same goal with us, that have slum communities, so that they can also see what is happening from us and also learn from the movie. As Bisola said when we started, we actually want to show slum dwellers that they actually have power. You won't know until you see that, yes, I have this power, so I can resist forced eviction, so I can make sure I push back so they are not destroying my community, so they are not destroying my homes. So once is like an empowerment sort of thing to empower other slum communities beyond Nigeria. So I don't know if Sal want to add.
Yeah, sorry. I would love to add. I think one thing that keeps us together as Slum Dwellers International, one common goal that keeps us is, number one, to put an end to forced eviction, because this is what happens in almost every informal settlement country all over the world. And as a Slum Dwellers International, one of our biggest goals is to empower ourselves to put an end to forced evictions, and also to make sure that we support one another. Yes, there is what they call slum supporting slum. Yes. So I think in the past, when we start like having this occurrence of an eviction, we do have people from Ghana that used to come to support us, to advise us. They also tell us how they have been trying to like doing things in their own local ways in Ghana. So we also learn from one another in terms of, okay, this is the similar challenge that we also have here. So we learn from one another. And what is going to happen to this is actually going to go across the SDI affiliate country. Yeah, because we are actively in over 36 countries. So hopefully, because it's actually like a piece for everyone to actually like learn and to also try to like put up a planning set for the informal settlement, to actually work on. So we actually support one another, and this advocacy will go across the SDI affiliate country. Yeah.
I think it's really cool. And under international law, forced eviction is a violation of human rights, no way around it. And it's well known, it's been well articulated in law. So, I would love to see the film brought to some of the circles where states gather, like multilateral meetings, of different governments, like at the United Nations, for example. There is a film festival in Geneva, which Frederick knows about, although I don't know if they show fiction films, but we should try to make sure that this film plays in places where governments are already meeting so that we can use it as an accountability mechanism that way. So let's talk about that.
Temi Ami, I know that you need to leave soon. How do you think this will change your acting career or your acting? Do you think this will give you some new possibilities?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually really excited for my career as an actor and also a filmmaker as well. Vagabond Queen is my second feature film in the history of my career. And the good thing that has happened for me is, both of these films premiered in a big way in the top 5 A-list film festivals in the world. So I know that hopefully, fingers crossed, going from here, more and more people will want to hire me on their projects. One, and then two, it makes me think that should people have socially impactful films and they're thinking, which actress can we trust to bring this to life? I'm hoping that my name comes first to their minds, because now I've done 2 along the same path, and I'm hoping that it will resonate with them when they're thinking, who can we call? Who can we hire for this? Temi, call Temi. But as a filmmaker, career-wise, as a filmmaker, Vagabond Queen has pushed me to think beyond my realities and start to consider other people and what they're going through, tell their stories as well. I've tried the whole pathway of telling my story. I mean, everyone's going through something, yes, right? I've just made a short film about my actual, lived experience being a cancer survivor in Nigeria, and that, tells on the healthcare system. It tells on a bunch of things, in Nigeria, right? And so now I'm thinking, how can I tell other people's stories like I've helped to tell Vagabond Queen? How can I take their stories in the most authentic way possible and share it? So I'm thinking around those now. I'm evolving beyond doing experimental stuff, because I mostly only used to make experimental films, cultural heritage pieces, movement-related costume design pieces. But now I'm expanding to accommodate drama and tell stories based off of true life. Yeah.
Temi, I have to ask you, because sometimes when you see a country from the outside where you've never been, it can just seem scary and horrible, and especially when we are telling these kind of really dark stories. So you also have to tell me why we should love Nigeria,
Why should you love Nigeria? Nigeria is a really special country, right? And Nigerians who make Nigeria, they're a bunch of resilient people. We keep using that word, but really that word is coming alive right before our eyes. Like, we can be going through the toughest thing in the history of history, and we'll find a reason to laugh about it, right? We'll find a reason to keep hope alive in spite of our realities, right? Nigeria is a beautiful place. There are so many beautiful, parts of it. We have abundance of natural resources, right? Nature. You want to come and connect with Mother Earth, come to Nigeria, right? There's actually more to the country beyond corruption and beyond, the bad governance and whatever else you might find on the internet. There's a whole lot more. There's a bunch of kind, loving people. There's a bunch of creative people, right? Nigeria is the largest exporter of cultural heritage, Afrobeats, films, we're exporting so much goodness, and it's in there, it's in that country. There's so much more going on that nobody's really talking about. And I really just want people to start to think about the country in like on a wider spectrum.
Thank you for that, because when I see the three of you, I can see that you're totally right, and to see three women in those tough circumstances creating a film that premieres at one of the A-list festivals, it's really an amazing job. So, congrats! Would you share the same vision of Nigeria, Bisola and Temi?
Well, I think I actually agree with Temi Ami. Yeah. I think, to be honest, there are actually a lot of beautiful things about Nigeria. But it seems that the heavy body is actually lingering on the bad aspect of things more than the good ones. So, like, we actually have a bad record to actually tell us, which affected people like me more than maybe other people. So I won't actually wanted to point out on some of other things than what is actually haking to me. So that will actually be a good point of view to say, like, pointing at things that may contradicting to your question. So I think I should just hold my peace for other people to just share their beautiful vibes on how Nigeria looks like to them. Thank you.
I think personally, there is no place that there is no good and there is no bad, right? I mean, even the world is full of good and bad, right? So as much as there are bad people, bad record of Nigeria, we actually have good things, really. We have good things. We have good people, There are times I would just be working and I would just come across somebody that would just be nice to me naturally without wanting to receive anything back in return. So as much as there are bad people in Nigeria, there are good people, absolutely good people. And I have experienced that from people in Nigeria. And as Temi Ami said, there are so many beautiful places in Nigeria, not just in Lagos. We have North. I mean, we have so many places. Nigeria is just not about Lagos. It's about so many other states that are wonderful. Yeah. That they have beautiful scenery. And you absolutely love Nigeria if you come. Not thinking about the bad ones, actually.
I can say that, when I was UN Special Rapporteur, I went on something like 10 different country visits, including Nigeria in October 2019. And it was only in Nigeria. When I would go into a community, I would be greeted more than once with song and dance and art. It was amazing. Even in the midst of real struggle and even sometimes violence that the community had recently experienced or they were experiencing, and anxiety about being evicted, still greeted with this incredible music, song, dance, art, very unique. And the idea of, this is going to sound, I don't know, hokey or something, but I think the women are so powerful in Nigeria. And the film really captures the strength of Nigerian women. And this gathering today on Pushback Talks the same, The film really captures like the love of a mother for her child and the resilience of women in the face of big struggles, right? And big challenges to what is really at the heart of so many of us, which is home. So that was one of the aspects of the film I just adored, was just like all these strong female characters. And really just, that was my experience of Nigeria, even though I was only there for 2 weeks.
But still, then we talked about Leilani before, is that the film opens up with the main character, your character, Temi Ami. She gets arrested for being poor.
Yeah.
Can you arrest people for being poor?
Sure
when
can.
When did poverty become a crime?
Yeah. And they have I can't remember, it's a law. It's like you're not doing anything with your time. It's like, it's so crazy.
Loitering.
Yeah. And in fact, in the film, Jau is not loitering. She was working.
Yeah.
And she was selling food. And they still arrested her, and this happens. And I actually witnessed it in Nigeria a couple of times, and I even went to, they put people in these terrible jails, this like holding cell. And if, like Jau had money, and so she was lucky. But if you think about it, right, she had money, she had to pay to get out of her potential imprisonment. And this is what I saw. And if you don't have money, you end up having to basically go to jail. I mean, it's double jeopardy, you know? So I was happy the film reflected that. That's actually not unique to Nigeria, these loitering laws, picking people up. In Nigeria, it's actually even more strict or something. Like persons with disabilities can be picked up just for having a disability. I talked to people about that when I was there. I mean, these are all obviously completely contrary to human rights. It's obvious. It's discrimination against poor people.
Yeah.
Before we close, is there anything that you wanted to say that you didn't say, or anything that we could weave back in? I just want to make sure.
Okay, I think we have said this before, but let me just hammer on it. The purpose of we doing this is not just to entertain, though we want to entertain while we tell our story. It's for us to call for support in a little way. Just try to join your voice and make sure that we put an end to forced eviction. Though there's actually a legal way to go about this, we are not actually asking much. What we are asking is due processing to be taken so that we won't actually render people homeless and hopeless. So that is just the last call to an action that we want everyone to take out of this. Join your voices, join the little support that you can. If there's a room for accountability, we have these people on our neck. You can just help us. You can bridge the bridge with the little ways that you have the connection or capacity to do.
Yeah, we will share the information about the film's website so people can write straight to you. So I'm really, really happy that we can make this connection between Sweden, Canada, and Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you so much for being on Pushback Talks. It was really a pleasure. Temi Ami, Bisola, and Temi, thank you so much. And I wish you all the best for your work. You are an inspiration, and we all need inspiration, because some people think that everything is hopeless, but you show us that it's not, and that's what we need.
Yes, thanks so much.
So thank you, Leilani. It was nice to be up again with you, meeting inspirational people, this time from Lagos. And I'm really happy for our podcast, so let's keep going. Is there anything we need to say to our audience? I should say that you should rate the podcast, you should subscribe to it. It helps a lot. We have now audience in 162 countries, so it's truly global. But there is space for more people. So please share the podcast, tell your friends about it. And
always
a lot of interesting stuff coming up also in the future. And there are 100+ episodes to go back and dig into. If you take long walks, it's a good thing.
That's right. Or cooking. While you're cooking, listen to a podcast. This was a special episode. I had a hard morning, and this episode gave me the inspiration I need to keep doing the human rights thing. If people want to support the podcast one other way, they could give us not just love, but money through our patreon.com account. Go to patreon.com, Pushback Talks, and you'll find us there. Every little bit helps.
Every little bit is also some kind of love, you know. It's not only money, it's also you show us that you care about our work. And we need love. You know, money is good, but love is almost even better.
Love is better.
Yeah.
Always better.
Let's go for it. Thank you very much. See you soon, Leilani.
Thanks, Frederick.
Pushback Talks is produced by WG Film. To support the podcast, become a patron by going to patreon.com/pushbacktalks. Follow us on social media at make_the_shift and push_the_film. Or check out our websites, maketheshift.org, pushthefilm.com, or breakingsocialfilm.com.